Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean. I will be your captain. We will board this vessel because today we have to set sail for one of the greatest achievements, one of the greatest maneuvers in American courtroom history, and that is a three-time felon managing to clear the entire bench in a hurdle in what was obviously a defensive lineman-inspired tactic to stop a QB sneak in order to attack the judge. I'm not going to hide the ball from you guys on this particular one. There is a broader policy implication that we do need to talk about, but overall, the reason we're talking about this is because of the video. It is ridiculous. Let me just give you a taste of it right here. But there is an insane felony history and an insane failure in the criminal justice system that is behind this that I also want to talk about. But before we do, thank you to everybody who signed up over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform. So over the weekend, everybody saw this video on social media on the internet.com of a criminal in a courtroom leaping over the bench, as you can see right here, and attacking the judge. Now, to be clear, because of the terms of service of YouTube, I am redacting the savage beatdown that occurred after this guy cleared the bench. But that being said, this beatdown was in fact horrific. It was in fact savage. It was in fact totally indicative of this person's previous criminal history, something that should have locked him up well before this situation. But I gotta give credit where credit is due, because Michael Lasso, the law clerk for this particular judge, was the person who was most credited for getting him off the judge. That being said, according to the reports behind the bench, what you can't really see in the video, this man managed to grab this judge's hair, a 62-year-old woman, and slam her head against the wall several times. He injured a bailiff, he injured a marshal, he injured the law clerk, but he was pulled off eventually. And by the way, he did appear back in court to continue his sentencing for the crime that he was originally convicted of, which I also want to talk about, because the prelude to the viral clip that everybody saw is very interesting and we need to discuss it as well.
I appreciate that, but I think it's time that he gets a taste of something else, because I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court...
While the leap is epic, while it is an amazing video, while I understand it is a viral video and interesting enough on its own, what the judge said right there to me is infinitely more interesting based on what we tend to talk about in terms of this particular channel. Because the judge says he needs to get a taste of a little something different. The judge says that based on his criminal history, he needs some actual punishment, actual consequences for his actions, which is indicative of the fact that he had yet to face any consequences for previous violent actions.
Mr. Redden, is there anything you want to say on your own behalf before I pronounce sentence?
So basically, I would like to tell the courts everyone here, like, based on my criminal history, like, I feel that, like, I shouldn't be, like, sent to prison for a second time.
Have you looked at your criminal history?
I actually just, I looked at it.
I mean, you lived it, I suppose.
I just looked at it,
Yeah.
And,
3 felonies, a gross, 9 misdemeanors, multiple DVs. Got a lot going on, sir.
Yeah, I just figured, like...
Battery on a protected person, robberies...
So according to the New York Post, Deobra Redden, age 30, who actually attacked that judge, which was a Clark County judge called Mary Kay Holthus, was sentenced to 19 to 48 months in prison for a baseball bat attack, which was the original reason why he was in court in the first place when he decided to leap the bench. Now, in that particular baseball bat attack, he had threatened to bust somebody's kneecaps. I'm assuming that's what the baseball bat was for, and it is reported reported by News 8 Now out in Las Vegas that he caused substantial injury to that particular person. Now, he did plead guilty in November. However, in May, he was ordered to go to a state facility for behavior to determine his mental competency. So Redden, who already had multiple felony convictions under his belt, multiple violent felony convictions under his belt, that dated back, as far as I can see from the local news reports, to 2018, was just released in October from a behavioral facility, pled guilty to the crime in November, was let out pending sentencing, didn't show up for his court date in December, and then ends up coming to court via a bench warrant January 3rd when this incident took place. And if you look at his history, these aren't baby violent felonies. I already told you about the most recent one, which was the baseball bat attack, where he threatened to bust out somebody's kneecaps, the hallmark of somebody who's mentally ill, and definitely needs behavioral counseling for sure instead of prison time. But the other instances would show you what should be seen as a pattern of behavior. By the way, I believe he has 9 total misdemeanor convictions and 3 felony convictions, which we will get into a little bit. But starting in 2012, here's what we have from Redden. Redden was convicted of assault causing bodily injury to a family member and sentenced to 45 days in jail at the time, according to the documents. In 2013, Redden was convicted 3 times for domestic battery. The document said he was ordered to attend anger management, spend 2 months in jail, pay a fine in 3 classes. In 2014, Redden was convicted of attempted theft. A judge sentenced him to probation, which he violated several times. Redden then entered a mental health court program. While on probation, Redden was twice convicted of domestic battery, tampered with his blood alcohol monitoring bracelet, and violated other terms of his probation. He was also charged with kicking a police officer in the knee. Also during his probation in 2018, Redden was convicted of battery with substantial bodily harm. In that case, he bit a woman and broke the windows of a man's car with a rock, the document said. Again, a judge sentenced Redden to probation. A judge honorably discharged him from probation in 2020 and in 2021. In 2021, guess what? He was convicted again for domestic battery. In that case, a different judge sentenced Redden to prison for a term of 12 to 30 months, but a board granted him parole in 2022. In 2021 as well, police charged Redden with attempted home invasion and destroying the property of another person, the document said, and it was unclear if Redden's arrest for these charges happened before he was remanded into custody for the other instance.
I just figure like I'm in a better place in my mind, my mental health. I have a support system. I just got hired as a teamster for, the union, making $20 an hour. And like the reason behind every single domestic violence, I've been dealing with mental health, and I didn't know that I was dealing with mental health. And they put me in mental health court, and I still didn't know that I had a mental health problem until it was August 2022.
In January of 2023, a year before this, Redden appeared before Holthus, the judge that he attacked, on those 2021 charges. Redden pleaded guilty, and Holthus released him without having to pay bail. That February, Holthus sentenced Redden to a year of probation, record said. Redden violated his probation in October, and Holthus ordered him to serve 106 days in jail. It was unclear why Redden was released before the January 3rd incident, or even if he served any time in jail.
I realized I have a problem with this, and like having a dictionary, and like understanding myself, getting to know myself a little better, and applying it to my personality, and having an epiphany at that moment. In those instances, and just like trying to learn from my mistakes, And I feel like I shouldn't be sent to prison, but if it's appropriate for you, then you have to do what you have to do. But I figured that, if I'm in a better place in my life, I'm not doing drugs, I'm not out there committing crimes now, and I feel like I should be given a shot because I'm in a better place than I was then, so, but I'm a person who never stops trying to do the right thing, no matter how hard it is. And I just, and I'm trying, and I never give up trying to do the right thing. I know I'm not a rebellious person. I don't want to be standing there. I want you to have to, sit up there and waste your time as well.
So what you'll notice by that lengthy criminal history that goes back well over a decade is that Redden is a career criminal. He's committed crime after crime after crime, and guess what? Most of them were violent crimes, and if they weren't violent crimes, they were often attached with the threat of violence, a threat that he often delivered on. And guess what? He was given break after break after break. He was diverted over and over again to mental health programs. He was diverted to mental health courts. Every excuse in the books was made for him, as he was assigned probation repeatedly, including being assigned probation by the very judge almost a year before he leapt over the bench to attack her, because guess what? That judge had it out for him. And the reason why that judge allegedly had it out for him is because at one point in time, she actually violated his probation, ordered him to serve 106 days in jail, 106 days in jail that he did not serve because he wouldn't have been out for this attack in the first place that occurred in the courtroom. And he was angry at this judge because he felt like she had it out for him, that she had an axe to grind against him. So one of the very judges who contributed to giving this guy break after break after break, letting him off with slap on the wrist after slap on the wrist, wasn't even treated with any gratitude by this criminal, because she ultimately ended up bearing the brunt, bearing the consequences of the actions of the criminal justice system, letting this guy out over and over and over again. Now, she didn't do anything different from those other judges up until the point where she actually violated his probation, because it turns out he was consistently violating his probation, so maybe that little taste of consequences was enough to build up the anger inside of him. And then when she actually decided that she was going to hold him to account for his felony conviction, that's when he lost it and decided that the system was unfair to him, rather than the system being unfair to his decades worth of victims. Now look, Ridden came back to court, was sentenced before this very judge, but he is due in court yet again, despite the fact that he claimed that he had mental illness after attacking the judge in his additional hearing. But the fact of the matter is, we're likely going to finally see an end to the Ridden problem, because he's been charged with a bunch of felonies, including official court intimidation, extortion, and all that, because he finally attacked somebody who matters. And this is one of the major problems that I have with the current criminal justice system. It feels like certain people who deserve a break never seem to get it, but people who show us a pattern of behavior, who show us a violent tendency, who show us a long history of not following the rules of their probation, are so entitled to getting slaps on the wrist that when they finally don't get one, when they finally face consequences, that's when they go off, that's when they end up attacking somebody, and only then when somebody gets attacked. And to be fair, the judge says that she was going to sentence him to this sentence prior to being personally attacked by him, and based on what she said leading up to the attack, I think that's what we would have expected from her anyway. But now that he's actually attacked a judge, we might be looking at some serious time, some serious charges, a serious sentence, because if you're another judge reviewing this, you probably know her, or you can sympathize with her, you can empathize with her, because you are likely afraid of one of these criminals coming to attack you, and we gotta set a standard that this is unacceptable behavior, which, by the way, on its own, in a vacuum, I have no problem with. My problem is that all of his behavior was unacceptable. Biting the woman, assaulting the woman, unacceptable. 3 different domestic violences, unacceptable. Busting out the guy's kneecaps, unacceptable. Attacking somebody in his own home, unacceptable. Yet he was given break after break after break. The attempted burglary, all of those crimes, all of those probation violations should have put this guy behind bars a long time ago, yet we had to wait until he attacked somebody that is allegedly more important than your average everyday citizen for people to actually react, for people to actually do something about it. And now he's got national attention, so we should expect to see the next judge go incredibly harsh on him. Now look, I don't have much more to say about this. Initially, I thought this was going to be a hilarious story of a guy supermaning, as he's described doing in many a paper, over the bench in order to attack a judge, but it turns out this is indicative of a broader problem where criminals are given break after break after break, excuses are made for them over and over again, and this was just a result that we were able to see on camera. This kind of person, if not for this particular incident, likely murders somebody. If he does not have the impulse control to restrain himself in a courtroom, to not leap and attack a judge in that particular moment, a judge who is in a string of a long line of judges who has given him breaks throughout his lengthy criminal history, this guy is not safe to be on the streets. And I wish somebody would have noticed that before this instance, not just for the judge's sake, but for all his other victims' sake. But now finally we can do something about it. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the greatest leap in courtroom history. Till next time.